What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we are back for another video of predicting whatever team's 2021 and 2022 NFL season. And today we are going up our way from the standings last year in the AFC East division. So we're up to the Patriots right now. We still have the Dolphins and the Bills remaining. But for this video, we are going to do the Patriots. And before we get into it, be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a like, guys. We're on the road to 100. We are almost there. So be sure, if you're watching my videos or you just found my channel, hit the subscribe button so you never miss any of my videos, whether that be Madden or real life football stuff. Regardless, just make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. For those of you that haven't seen one of these videos before, first off, go ahead and go catch up because you haven't missed too many. So go to my playlist section, click on the 2021 to 2022 NFL season prediction thing because I got all the teams in there. We did the AFC North, and now during the AFC East, we'll do West, and then we'll do South, and then move on to the NFC. But anyway, for the Patriots right now, guys, if you haven't seen one of my videos before, I go through passing, I go through rushing, receiving, I go through defense, and we recap from this past year. Then I go back to the top, and I predict the player stats for this coming year, and then an overall record of how I see the season going. And then that's pretty much the video. So we'll get right into it right now. We do have Cam Newton as our quarterback, and as you guys can see behind me, being a Panthers fan, I will always respect Cam, regardless of the season he had for any team for the rest of his career. But as for this year, 2,657 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. But Cam did really well for, I think, the first 2 to 3 weeks, and then COVID hit him, and I don't know if that really impacted him that much or what happened, but, the rest of the season just was not it for Cam. He had more interceptions, touchdowns, not good at all. But he also didn't have a ton of targets to work with, and honestly, once we go down here, like I said, I respect Cam, and I hope you guys can at least respect this because Cam Newton had 627 yards from scrimmage. He had 592 rushing yards and 12 rushing touchdowns. Their starting running back, Damian Harris, had 2 rushing touchdowns, and honestly, barely had more rushing yards and yards from scrimmage than Cam. It was only about 100 difference, which is crazy for a 31-year-old quarterback. I mean, that is seriously crazy. Regardless, though, of Cam, I went through passing a little bit. For rushing, though, Damian Harris did have a pretty good year. He had only 2 rushing touchdowns, but he did have 743 yards from scrimmage. And the Patriots, because Tom Brady's been there for, forever up until this year, they're more of a pass-first team anyway, so they're not known for their rushing or anything like that. But I honestly think for a team not being known for their rushing ability, they had honestly some really good running backs this past year. They had Burkhead, they had Michelle, and they had Harris, who all had a pretty solid year, and James White. I almost forgot him. But James White had 496 yards from scrimmage. Burkhead had 466. Michelle had 563. Cam had 627, and then Harris had 743. Those are all running backs other than Cam Newton. That is pretty crazy. So though they didn't win too many games, you got to also remember that this team is shifting from the greatest quarterback of all time leading their team and pretty much passing most plays to having to go to a totally different style quarterback in a new system in his first year, and with COVID going on, with running backs and having to change their system to fit the players they have now. Like, the Patriots had a crazy adjustment to do. So yes, I'm not going to justify Cam's season because no, he didn't have a good year. And no, the Patriots, they went 7-9. They didn't have a great year either. But there are a lot of factors of what went into that to make this season not great for them. So truthfully, I think this season for them was the best it could have been with what they had at the time. Jacoby Myers was their leading receiver. He did have 738 yards from scrimmage and 729 receiving yards. Damian Harris had 604 receiving yards and then had 619 yards from scrimmage. And then N'Keal Harry had 309 yards, only 3, and actually that was all receiving. Never mind, no rushing yards for him. Yeah, so something to note here again, and kind of Cam's defense because obviously I'm a Cam fan, but again I try to keep these videos pretty neutral. But in defense of the quarterback, regardless if it was Cam Newton. That could have been, Patrick Mahomes. Look at his targets. He doesn't have this one, huge standout receiver. Jacoby Myers, honestly, he's pretty good. He was very solid for him. So is Damian Harris. N'Keal Harry, I honestly think personally is kind of a letdown. But, it's what it is. I think they had a good year with the targets that they had. I think the targets they had as receivers, Jacoby Myers and Damian Harris, they did have a good year. considering they had 31-year-old Cam Newton throwing them the ball. Yeah, I'm not trying to justify Cam's season or really anyone on the team because that's just how sports go. There are be factors that you have to fight through and try and, come back from adversity and win games still, which, they only did that 7 times and they had 9 losses. But I do think that they have a pretty promising future because if you look at it, in this offseason, they went out and they got Jonnu Smith and they got Hunter Henry for receiving. They got Nelson Aguilar, I believe. The franchise, the Patriots know they need targets, and they went out and did it, and you can't ask for much more than that. So, also, I am going to talk about this, of course, they got Mac Jones in the draft, and so I think a huge thing to note here that I'm going to go over in just a second after defense is that there's going to be a big change to the offense, so we'll get back to that in just a second. But as far as defense goes, I think J.C. Jackson is honestly one of the most underrated corners in the NFL. He had 9 interceptions. I almost said 11, I was like, no, that's not right. But he had 9 interceptions. Easily led the team. The second closest person had 2. And I think that was 3rd among corners. I could be wrong, but I think that was 3rd among corners, which is really, really good. The secondary, it's still pretty good. The defense they had a solid year. Gilmore obviously is just not what he used to be, at least in my opinion. And that's kind of why I made the thumbnail what it is, because obviously you guys click on the video, what the thumbnail looked like. That, things are kind of changing. Cam is kind of coming to the end of his career as Mac Jones is entering it. Gilmore, I don't think is coming to the end of his career, but I do think it's going to be coming to the end of his time with the Patriots, as J.C. Jackson is going to quickly kind of pick up the respect he deserves, especially after a 9-interception season. But, yeah, I really think it's at that point where it's kind of passing the torch. Gilmore is kind of bringing up the next corner, which is going to be J.C. Jackson, and I think Cam's going to bring up the next quarterback, which is going to be Mac Jones at some point, whether that's this season or not. We'll get into that in just a second, but I think the defense as a whole, they did have a very good year. I definitely think I did not mean to do that. I definitely think J.C. Jackson, though, is kind of the highlight of that defense right now. So back to passing, and so now that I'm going to be going into this year, because I already recapped everything from last year, now that we're going to this current year, that's where Mac Jones comes in, because Cam played, 15 to 16 games. Mac Jones, he's supposed to be, I'm not going to say he's supposed to be really good, but obviously, being that high of a pick, doing what he did in college, he's going to be expected to play pretty well in the NFL. So there are some things that are going to go along with that, though. And first off is that I can't see Mac Jones starting week 1. And as you guys know for these videos, I try to predict the player playing all 16 games. But I truthfully can't feel like I can do that because I don't see Cam playing all 16 games. But I don't see Mac Jones playing all 16 games either. I think, honestly, it's going to be about halfway through the year when they're going to be like, you know what? Let's give Mac Jones a try. Because I love Cam, but I don't see him having a crazy good year. I do see him having a better year than this past year because I think he's going to have more targets and just be more comfortable with the system. But I still don't think he's honestly going to have, it's not 2015 Cam. So now, with that in mind, as if Mac Jones is playing, you have to also look at the offense now with a rookie quarterback playing and not a 31-year-old. Because even if you think Cam is completely trash, he, at some point in his career, won an MVP, and he went to the Super Bowl. So he's a veteran at the very least. If you don't respect him at all, he's 31 years old, and he's in the NFL. So regardless, he has experience, and Mac Jones is not. And that's what it's going to come down to, because I think Mac Jones in college, I'm not trying to discredit him, but he had some pretty good receivers around him. He had receivers that I think went in the first round with Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith, possibly more that I just can't even think of right now. So I think he had a lot of talent in college, and he's currently coming to a team that's trying to kind of establish themselves again as far as targets go or being receivers. I don't think they got anyone crazy for receiver. I said like Nelson Aguilar. If Jacoby Myers continues to perform, I think he can honestly become a very solid target at receiver. But they do have now Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, and those are big targets right there. And I think regardless if Cam Newton or Mac Jones is throwing the ball, they're going to have to adjust to who they're throwing the ball to, because right now I think with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith on the team, their biggest targets, well literally their biggest targets, are at tight end. And, there's obviously formations where you can run plays with several tight ends. I'm not saying that's not a thing, but they're going to have to adjust to having bigger targets at tight end than receivers. That's not really a common thing. I think the Chiefs, Travis Kelce is one of Mahomes' biggest targets, but you don't see a lot of dual threat tight ends anymore. So this is going to be a really interesting year for the Patriots. I'm really interested to see how they're going to utilize that because obviously they have two very talented tight ends. And I do think, regardless of if it's Cam or Mac Jones in the game, I think this year is a much better year to be a quarterback on the Patriots. I think last year you had a lot of things not going your way. You had people hating on you for one reason because you weren't doing well without Tom Brady, and people were making jokes about that, so you didn't have a lot of confidence. Plus, you were losing games, so you really didn't have any confidence to come from anything because you didn't have anything to back it up. You had Cam, who honestly became kind of a meme because he was doing so terribly. But this year, you got a rookie quarterback who's supposed to be very, very good out of college. You got some big offseason pickups. Clearly, you just saw what Brady did. Everybody did. So, you can that's kind of closure for you. Yep, he's gone. He won a Super Bowl again. He's still Brady. So, you kind of can do your own thing now. And I think because they can do their own thing now, it's going to be up to kind of Cam Newton and Mac Jones dueling out at quarterback, seeing who honestly deserves to play right now. Because if Mac Jones impresses, there's not going to be a reason for Cam Newton to be on this team. I think Cam clearly wanted to be playing or starting at quarterback. That's why he didn't want to be at the Panthers anyway. He went to the Patriots. They did need a quarterback. He did what he could do last year. But now they have Mac Jones in. If he plays well, I don't see Cam being on the Patriots for another year, if I'm being completely honest. I think his deal is only for one more year as well. So I think things are lining up for Mac Jones to be your franchise QB. I think you guys got pickups in the offseason that line up for Mac Jones to be able to perform very, very well. I really think it comes down to really how skilled is he. Because like I said, in college, he had a lot of talent around him. And I think that you could be if you're going to Alabama, you're a crazy good quarterback anyway. But if it's, I don't think he's in the, I don't want to say Jalen Hurts, but I don't think he's really as good as Tua. And I know that they have, in college, I'm saying, and I know that they played two different ways, but I just don't think Mac Jones is obviously the greatest quarterback ever to come out of Alabama. So I think that he's going to have to really, really step it up in the NFL if he's going to have to prove everybody else wrong because, 49ers took Trey Lance over him. And he went to North Dakota State? That's not the same competition as Mac Jones had at Alabama. So I think, hopefully, Mac Jones has a bit of a chip on his shoulder. And now that he has the confidence and the people around to play well, hopefully for the Patriots he does. So I know that may have been a lot. I might have cut some of that out because, I did talk for a while, but I was trying to make my overall point is that it's going to come down to what Mac Jones can do because even if Cam's better quarterback right now, he's 31 years old. He's not going to be even in the NFL for, I wouldn't say too much longer, especially the way he plays. You can be in the NFL for longer at quarterback. Look at Tom Brady, but not if you're taking hits like Cam does. So it's going to be Mac Jones' time regardless, so hopefully he steps it up, and that was the point I was trying to make, is that everything's lining up for him to do that. He has the guys around him that Cam didn't necessarily have last year. He has not the experience, but he's entering the prime of what will be the prime of his career. So Mac Jones has a lot of things around that will really should help him perform well in the NFL in his first year. I'm not going to predict passing because I think it's really up in the air right now of who's going to play more, whether it's Cam Newton or Mac Jones. So I hope the best for either quarterback, no matter who plays. Hopefully they play well. As far as rushing goes, I really think that even if Cam is not playing, they're going to put him in for rushing plays because he is 6'6" or something. And so if you put him for a trick play at the goal line, that dude's got some reach to get across the goal line. So I could see him getting in for rushing. I'm not going to predict him, but I do think he'll at least get in for rushing plays. I think their best running back next year will be Damian Harris, who had a great year. I think he'll crack 1,000 yards from scrimmage. But Damian Harris did have 52 receiving yards all year, which may not seem like a lot, and it's not. But he has proven that he can at least catch it and make plays. 52 yards receiving for a running back isn't terrible. So maybe if he builds on that, he becomes more of a, not receiving back, but he's able to do both, kind of give him the confidence a little bit. So I think he'll take a big jump in 2021, actually. He had only 2 rushing touchdowns. I think he's going to have over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, and I think he's going to have about 5 rushing touchdowns and 1 receiving touchdown, at least in my opinion, for Damian Harris. But look at their running backs. You have 4? You have 4 running backs right there. So James White, Rex Burkhead, Sonny Michel, Damian Harris. Comment down below what running back you think will do the best because you've got a lot to choose from. And as far as receiving goes, I don't see Jacoby Myers breaking 1,000 yards, but I do see him getting closer than this past year, probably around 900 yards from scrimmage, and most of that being receiving. I think Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry will both become some huge targets for whether that's Cam or Mac Jones, each getting around 500 receiving yards with a couple of touchdowns in there as well. Defensively, I'm gonna predict J.C. Jackson because I think he's just so underrated. I hope he gets the attention he deserves. He had 9 interceptions. I don't know if he can get 9 more, but you know what? I'm gonna guess 8. Let's see if he can get 8. Let's see if he can get 9 and 8. That would be pretty crazy. So we'll say 8 interceptions for J.C. Horn. No QB hits. He's a corner. I can't really see him getting to the quarterback much. I'm not going to predict his tackles because that can be so up in the air for cornerbacks. So that's all I'll predict for defense because I feel like everybody else is honestly just pretty solid, and I think they'll all have a very solid year, and hopefully the defense is able to continue to, I don't know, get better. Their ages aren't anything, I mean, crazy. Like, no one's super, super old. I think the oldest is 33, and that's Jason McCourty. Yeah, Jason and Devin McCourty, obviously, because of their twins. So, I don't know. I mean, you have a fairly young defense, plenty of room to grow, plenty of room to improve. Yeah, I don't know. I see a very solid year for the defense, and I see J.C. Jackson leading that secondary. So, hopefully that all made sense. I am already knowing right now I'm going to have to cut some of that out because I did talk for a while as far as Mac Jones and Cam Newton goes, but I did just kind of want to get my point across of that. It's all going to depend on the quarterback, I think. It's going to depend on the quarterback and how they use their new weapons this year for the Patriots. I think it's going to come down to that. They were 7-9 this past year. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and just say it was an adjusting year after losing the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. So, 7-9, we'll reverse that and we'll say 9-8, barely cracking 500. We know it's 17 games, so I'll say 9-8, barely cracking 500. But I do think they will show a bit of improvement. Nothing crazy, I don't, no AFC Championship or anything like that. But there will be some glimpses and some promising looks of really good players, I think. I think Mac Jones will have a very solid career. I don't think people give him enough credit. But I do think it's fair to argue that he did have a lot of talent around him in college. But other than that, that is really going to do it for the video. So if you guys did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe button so you never miss any of my other videos. Comment down below, like I said, what running back you think will do the best, or just anything at all. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I mean, that's why I do videos, so comment down below your take or your opinion. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.